the Commission, I give them credit for this, both programmatically and politically recognized they were not going to be able to sustain support for the renewable portfolio standard unless we found a way to start spending some of this money down in the New York City area. So the Commission, working with us, came up with this idea of a regional balanced competitive auction program, which was targeted to the metropolitan New York City area. Initially, it was $30 million. We put it out in the street last year, and we were astounded by the results. Under the customer-sited tier type of program that Jeff Irish and his people work in, we will pay you for the installation of a PV system on your home, $1.50 per kilowatt. When we put this out to bid on the geographic balance program, you know, the bids are sealed, they're confidential, but what I can say in the aggregate is the prices came in far below $1.50, suggesting there are real opportunities to capitalize upon economies of scale and marketplace forces to drive down the cost of the installation of the PV technology, even before we start making some of the technological breakthroughs that Pradeep and his colleagues are operating on. That program was so successful that what we did, and what the governor proposed, was to take that model that worked so effectively in the metropolitan New York City area and spread it statewide. And that's the $106 million solicitation that we announced yesterday. We're going to take the model that worked so well in the metropolitan New York City area and spread it statewide. It will still be heavily targeted downstate to the metropolitan New York City area because we think that's where some real opportunities are. But this time around, the entire state will have the opportunity to capitalize upon that program. And again, as part of the New York Sun, we do have the Long Island Power Authority Solar Pioneer Program, the Solar Entrepreneur Program, the Feed and Tariff Program. I'm not going to talk about that because life begins to talk, there'll be nothing left to talk about. And then again, we will continue to push forward in the R&D collaborations with the folks here at Nanotech and elsewhere. And I don't know if our folks, colleagues from DOE are still here, but I can't resist the opportunity, if they are, to touch upon the energy storage, which I think Gil mentioned, and the link between energy storage and renewable energy technology generally, solar energy in particular. We are focused upon energy storage at NYSERD, and we've supported the creation of this consortium called New York BEST, the New York Battery Energy Storage Technology. But even more importantly, we're engaged with our colleagues at Brookhaven National Lab, the folks here at SUNY Albany, a coalition of private sector and university communities. We are going very aggressively after the federal funds to create an energy storage hub on Long Island located at SUNY Stony Brook and Brookhaven National Lab. And the governor has committed $10 million in money from NYSERDA to support that effort. So I know I can't lobby the folks from DOE, and I'm not engaged in that, but if there are any folks from DOE here, your folks over in the Office of Science right now are busily looking at the various proposals. You may find them of some interest. Now here we go. The PON that we put out yesterday, the $107 million, it depends upon zonal demand, and adjustments for zonal group allocations may occur. Again, this goes, we're crafting this in such a way that we will respond to market demand. We have the flexibility under the way the Public Service Commission has structured this program to reprogram funds from upstate to downstate depending upon where the demand occurs. We have focused upon the zones. The zone groups there are the zone groups defined by the ISO. Each zone has its own locationally based marginal cost price. Along the lines of what was discussed earlier by Margaret and Laurie, we are targeting those areas of the utility grid where we can get some additional benefits above and beyond simply the cost reductions of the introduction of the technology. I mean, some of you know Dr. Richard Perez from SUNY Albany. He has talked for years about how some of these solar programs don't recognize some of the other economic benefits that actually accrue through this investment. Well, without giving necessarily credit to Dr. Perez, this is designed to accomplish part of that by focusing upon those areas within the utility grid where the introduction of this technology would provide the greatest benefit. And again, it wasn't government that decided which areas of the electric grid are the ones where you get that greatest benefit. We turned to the Con Eds and the national grids, and they were the ones that identified where in their system you could get this additional value as a result of investing in solar. And if you go to our map, you go to our website, I have to give you the website. Tom told me as I was sitting there, he forgot to give you the website. The website, for those of you who don't know, is ny-sun.newyork.gov. You go to the website, you will find maps on the website that will identify for you service territory by service territory, where within those service territories these areas where you can in fact get an extra kicker by investing in solar are located. It wasn't mentioned by Laurie or Margaret, but the way our solicitation is set up, you bid into the solicitation, you set your price, and then if it turns out you win the bid, so to speak, and then it turns out you're located in one of these areas that the utilities identified as particularly needy investment in solar, you will get an additional 15% incentive payment above and beyond what you bid into the solicitation. We are proposing to do 3 solicitations spread out over the next 9 months, Damon? About that. From our perspective, it's terribly important that we get real projects. We are under the gun, as we should be, to accomplish the governor's articulated goal of doubling PV installations this year and quadrupling them next year. We do not have the time to waste on pie-in-the-sky projects. So what you'll see as you dig into the solicitation is we are looking for real projects. No, we're not going to use the term shovel-ready. But we're looking for real projects, and we're setting some fairly rigid timetables in this process. We cannot afford the luxury of negotiating with developers for projects only to find 2 months into that process the project evaporates. So it's important that you have real projects. In the past, we've allowed developers to bid in effect a block, so to speak. We're not allowing that this time around. We want you to identify real projects. You find your customers, you line up with your customers, and you get that bid application into us. We will try to be as flexible and as reasonable as possible, but recognize we do have a very real time deadline that we have to work against to accomplish the goals that we've articulated. To facilitate that, we've made a couple of changes in the way we've operated in the program in the past. One of the most important ones of which is we are raising the maximum award that we can make to any individual developer. Under the old program, we limited the amount of money that any individual applicant could receive to $3 million. We have doubled that to $6 million. In part, that was a philosophy in which we were trying to ensure that as we developed the marketplace, we didn't have 1 or 2 developers come in and capture the entire marketplace. We've had some experience with that now. We feel a little more comfortable in raising the overall amount that any one developer can access through the competitive solicitation. There is no practical limit or legal limit on the size of the project that you bid into the auction. However, we will not pay more than $3 million per project. Great, and finally, I think that may be the last one. Oh, here we go. Here are the proposal due dates. The first one is coming up fairly quickly in November. We have one in March. We have one in August. Again, you can copy this down, but all of this is on our website and on that New York Sun website that I talked about. It's a 2-step process. Again, there's going to be a short list. You bid your project in, and before we will seal your actual bid, we will look at your project. We're not going to waste our time evaluating projects that are not real. So there's going to be a first step. We will let you know right away whether or not your project indeed meets our standards for competency and capability. And only after that will we move to the next stage of the process, which will be to actually open up the bid prices. Like I said, the PV system program, the minimum size is 50 kW. Projects smaller than that are eligible under our customer-signed tier program. And oh, by the way, the customer-signed tier program, for those of you, the Jeff Irishes is what we call them, who've been participating in that program. Earlier this year, we raised the ceiling on how much any individual developer could finance under that program. I think we went from $250,000 to $400,000. We are going to double that to $800,000. We will be announcing that. I haven't announced it at the moment. Over the next week or 2, it'll be posted on our website. But again, we see that as yet another tool that will help facilitate the realization of more projects. Eligible sites need to be connected to the grid, and you need to pay into the Renewable Portfolio Standard program in the New York ISO zones A through J, which is basically everywhere in New York State except Long Island, which operates its own program. We will be holding bidder teleconferences, several of them. We encourage you to participate in them. Under the procurement laws of the state, there are limitations or restrictions of how much we can interact, but we want to get as much information out there as possible to the developers so that you can respond as quickly as possible to the overall program goal. And with that, I mean, just kind of in conclusion, let me reiterate what Tom and Gil have already said. This is a terribly important initiative. It has the governor's very strong support. As you can see, we are working together as a team, NIPA, LIPA, NYSERDA, the Public Service Commission, the governor's office. We're moving together forward, but at the same time, we recognize our ability to succeed depends, if not primarily, heavily upon your active engagement in this process. And whatever we can do to facilitate your engagement in this process, particularly the sharing of the information that makes it easier for you to participate, all the better. Just pick up the phone. Dana, raise your hand. Dana here. Dana was about to go on a 3 or 4 day vacation. Dana is the point person, at least on the auction portal program. We have a number of other folks here from NYSERDA in the room today. You should take advantage, as I said,